Lisa got that from class yesterday. Well, good morning, everyone. So as most of you know, I'm in ministerial school on the path to becoming an official Unity minister. And throughout school, we have to do this thing that they call progress interviews. And so what it is you have to give a 5 to 7 minute Sunday talk in front of a panel of 3 different Unity ministers. And then they ask you questions like, tell me about a time when, or they'll ask you, tell me one of Jesus's parables and how you would metaphysically interpret it. So there's almost no way to prepare for that portion of it. And you have to do that 3 different times. And then at the end of the week, they give you feedback. So last week, I had progress interviews. And because I'm nearing the end of my journey, it was my final time engaging in this process. And so the feedback that I was waiting for on Friday essentially would be, are we recommending you for ordination this June or not? So I'm pleased to say I was recommended for ordination. So I can't use the Rev title yet, but as Patricia calls me, we'll stick with pre-Rev until June 16th when I'm officially ordained. So because this was my final session of progress interviews, they had a specific topic that I needed to do my talk portion on. And over the last 3 years, we've been working on creating, me and the rest of my cohort have been working on creating our personal credos, which is the statement of what we believe about God, what we believe about humanity, how those interact with each other, and how that guides and leads our ministry. Now that's way too much to fit into a 5 to 7 minute talk, so I advised us choose a piece of it and give your talk on that. So my talk was called Transformed from the Inside Out, because I believe transformation is a really key part of our spiritual journey. And so I want to share just the beginning portion of the talk that I gave last week. When I first began really leaning into my spiritual journey as a teenager, I was captivated by the idea of enlightenment, awakening, what the Buddhists call nirvana. I wanted a moment where I would be transformed forever, where I would cease to be the person I used to be and be born anew. I wanted a single moment in time to delineate my past self from my shiny new enlightened self. Now, I have since discovered that spiritual progress, much like any progress in life, is the slow and steady journey of a lifetime. I do not doubt those who have experienced those all-in-one moment transformations, and I've certainly had a few of them myself. You know, those light bulb, aha, divine inspiration type moments where you can finally see something that you were blind to before. Yet my spiritual journey has mostly been one of putting one foot in front of the other, day after day, of slowly and deliberately catching a thought and choosing to change it, of recognizing an unconscious belief that is directing my life from the shadows, bringing that belief into the light, and doing the daily work of transformation. So in order to witness changes, shifts, and transformation in our lives, whether it's the transformation of a relationship, a situation, a habit, or the spiritual transformation of opening yourself to express more of that Christ light in the world, it requires daily work. In the Bible, there is this ongoing debate about faith or works. Which of these is greater? Is it what we believe, or is it what we do? Now, Jesus, in a way, was rebelling against the idea of salvation through works. You see, the religion of his upbringing, he felt was steeped in rote ritual, that people were following the laws and doing the things that they were supposed to do, but they had lost the heart, lost the spirit of why they were doing those things. They were doing it, going through the motions without purpose. And so the religion that was created after Jesus, a lot of people followed that rebellion that they felt Jesus had started and said that faith is greater than works. It's what we believe, it's not what we do. But then along comes James. And James says, "Show me your faith without works, and I by my works will show you my faith." He goes on to say that it is faith and action working together that lead to transformation. That through action, faith is made complete. So let me put it in plain English. If I say I believe that God is my source and God is abundant and therefore I am abundant, but I look around in fear wondering where my next dollar is going to come from, I have faith without works. But if I can put that faith into action and trust the omnipresent Spirit to deliver to me that which I need in the right and perfect timing, now I have faith and works. And through completing that cycle, by putting my faith into action, my faith is made stronger. So in Unity, we see the Bible as metaphysical, meaning that it tells every individual's story of growth in consciousness and the transformation. It all begins in consciousness. Repeating an affirmation without the belief, without that knowing, without that spirit involved, that's works without faith. It's a rote ritual, not infused with the power of faith to make things happen. It's what the cynics would call magic thinking. If I say I believe, but my actions don't reflect that belief, then my faith is dead. It's doing nothing for me. It is only the combination of both faith and action that we are able to experience transformation. God is our source. Yes? That means everything else is a resource. Here's the definition of resource: a stock or supply of money, materials, staff, and other assets that can be drawn on by a person or organization in order to function effectively. What is the point of a resource if we do not use it? What is the point of faith if we do not put it into action? So this brings us back to the daily work of transformation. I'm talking about transformation today because, yes, I'm passionate about it, but also it's the Lenten season. And the Lenten season is all about preparing for transformation. This is a time where, like a snake, we shed off our old skin. Or if you don't like snakes and you prefer the butterfly analogy, this is the time where we go into a cocoon and we dissolve into a puddle of goo and then rebuild ourselves inch by inch by inch, so that when the timing is right, we can emerge with those beautiful wings. That is what happens, by the way, if you want to look it up. Turn into a pile of goo first, and then you rebuild. So there's a reason that Lent is 40 days, 6 weeks. It's because preparing ourselves for transformation takes a lot of work. We have to do it every day. And I think the daily work of transformation can be broken down into an acronym: FACT. F-A-C-T. So the F, the facts of transformation, the F stands for face it. Everything begins, every transformation begins with the choice to face something. What feeling are you not facing? What truth? Where are you not keeping an agreement? What are you afraid to look at in your life? We have the choice to face these things we'd rather keep hidden or not. And there's no judgment. But the truth is that if you don't face it, you're going to stay stuck. You won't experience transformation unless you do. That inner feeling of discontent, that inner feeling that says there's something more magnificent and better for me, that won't go away until you face what you are being called to face. Gay Hendricks, author of Conscious Living and about 30 other fantastic books, he says, when you face a situation fully, you must be willing to see your role in keeping it going, however minor. It is only once you look at it that you can open up the possibility of creating something new and different in the world. When we're called to transform a certain aspect of our lives, we're called to face the things that we've kept hidden, often the things we've kept hidden from ourselves. When I was called to ministry, I was very clear that I wanted to help people heal from mental health challenges using spiritual tools. It wasn't just about getting a new degree and a new career path for me. To become the minister that I want to be, it requires transformation. And so I had to face something that was scary for me to look at. I shared yesterday in our spiritual tools for mental health class that I survived a suicide attempt when I was 20 years old. And for 10 years, I never talked about it. I never thought about it. I pushed it underneath the rug and completely ignored it. That was then, this is now. For 10 years, I didn't face it. But the transformation that I am being called into to become a minister required that I face it. I could have gone about my life without ever doing that. I might have still gotten the recommendation to be ordained last week without ever facing it. But if I wished to be transformed, I had to face it. So what in your life are you being called to face? To experience the transformation that you seek? And here's the thing. When we face these aspects of ourselves or of our past that we don't want to see, we have to do it as a friend. No one ever shamed themselves into transformation. Trust me, I've tried. But once we face it, once we are brave enough to turn our shoulders square to it and see it head on with love, we're ready to move in to the A, which is acceptance. So F is facing it, A is accepting. Accepting means harmonizing it within yourself. Not judging yourself for it, but integrating it into the whole of who you are. Sitting with that aspect of yourself or your life or your past that you were afraid to face and getting curious about it. Asking it questions. Learning what it is there to show you. You see, the universe responds to the energy and vibration we put out there. Do you believe that? Yeah. So if I go through the process of burning bull, like many of you did with me a few weeks ago, and I release what I want to let go of, and then I begin putting the intention out there that I am ready for transformation, guess what happens? Situations and circumstances are going to start popping up all over your life that are forcing you to face what's holding you back from transformation. It's Spirit's way of showing us what we need to shift in order to move from here to there, from that old self to that shiny new, enlightened self. I want to share with you another small part of my credo talk that I did last week. Reflecting back on my time as a teenager and that deep desire for a transcendental awakening experience, I now suspect the reason I was so drawn to it was because I didn't like who I was. I saw myself as bad, unworthy, and broken. I wanted transformation because I was hoping that if I were transformed, I could finally love myself. The key of transformation is that we have to love ourselves first. We cannot shame ourselves into it. We cannot judge ourselves into it. If we seek transformation as a way to rid ourselves of what we don't like and only see what we want to see, it's not going to work. And in a way that's coming from a place of lack, that I need this to be happy. The truth is that you are already whole, worthy, and complete just as you are, warts and all. It can be a long, long journey to really take on and embody that truth, that you are the perfection of Christ in the shape of you. But it's worth it. Doing this work is how we transform. Knowing the truth of who and what you are as a child of God is what allows you to transform. So as you bravely face those things that you haven't faced, as you discover the aspects of yourself that are keeping you stuck, the next step after you face them is to accept all of it. All of it as part of the wonderful, magnificent you. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't feel guilt for some of the mistakes that you've made, but it does mean that you let go of shame. Here's the difference. Guilt says, I messed up. I did a bad thing. Shame says, I am a bad thing. And that's not true. So no matter what you've done or haven't done, no matter how long you've stayed stuck in the same pattern, it is never too late to transform. You are always worthy of transformation. You have to face what's holding you back, and you have to accept it and integrate it as part of you. And you have to accept that you are so much more than your stories. So after accepting comes C, which is commitment. You can't be transformed without 100% commitment. I found for myself an aspect that I had to accept, that if I was scared I wouldn't do well in something, I just wouldn't try, or I would just kind of half-ass it. I'm allowed to say that in church, right? Because that way, if I failed, I could say, well, I failed because I didn't really try that hard. But full transformation can't happen without full commitment. We have to go all in. So what are you ready to commit to in your transformation journey? Are you committed to letting go of the old story that says, I'm not good enough? It doesn't mean you'll never have a thought of lack ever again. But what it does mean is that your commitment is to catch it. That every time that thought of I'm not good enough comes up, I am committed to catching it and changing the story. Are you being called to transform and heal a relationship? Maybe then your commitment is to show up in love each and every time you speak with or think about that person. That doesn't mean they might not press your buttons still. That you might not make a mistake, slip up, get angry, say a mean word. But it means you are committed to showing up and returning to love again and again and again. That's the daily work of transformation. Your commitment keeps you in the game. It keeps you doing the work. So my commitment, as scary as it is and as vulnerable as it makes me feel, is to keep telling my story. Yesterday, those of you who were with me for Spiritual Tools for Mental Health, that was my third time ever telling my story to a group of people. I had on my notes, this is where you tell it, and I saw it, and I hesitated, but then I did it. Which brings us to the next step, the T of the fact, which is take action. So the first three steps, facing, accepting, and committing, those are all done in your own consciousness, because that's where it always begins, is in consciousness. But then, having done that work in consciousness, we move into action. We integrate faith with works and we make our faith whole. So by fully accepting all parts of myself, even the stuff I'd rather not look at, I find love and compassion for myself and for the person that I used to be. And by committing to stepping into my calling, Spirit shows up with all of these opportunities for me to say yes to the invitation and say what I'm here to say, do what I am being called to do, to act on that commitment. And still, you always have a choice. When you get that pull and that tug of Spirit that's inviting you to do something that's a little scary that you committed to, you have a choice. Do I show up as the full, authentic expression of the Christ light that I am? Or do I hide? And either one's okay. But one leads to transformation, and one keeps you right where you're at. Only you know what action you are being called to take in your transformation journey. Only you can know what it is you need to face and accept and commit to be transformed from the inside out. Only you can do the daily work of action to live into that which you are being called to be. Will you heed the call? Will you open yourself up to the transforming power of the Christ light within? Yes? With enthusiasm. Will you heed the call? Will you heed the call? So take a moment right now and write down what it is you need to face on your journey of transformation. Don't overthink it. If something's popped into your head while I've been talking, that's probably it. Accept that as that divine idea from Spirit and write it down. We have 3 weeks left in the Lenten season. Miracles can happen in a second, so you have plenty of time. Are you ready? Yes. Are you willing? Yes. Then it will be done. And so it is.